I am so excited about this conversation because I am joined by Kieren Westwood. He is a fiction writer, freelance editor, and YouTube creator who helps writers at every stage find their authentic voice and tell better stories. Through his writing, editing, and videos, he's encouraged thousands of writers to create work that feels true to who they are. Kieren, I'm so excited about our conversation today. Thanks for
You.
joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it.
I love talking about the writing process, just the creative process in general. I love hearing why people are inspired to create anything, really. And the writing process is something that I have just getting into more writing over the years. I've read tons of craft books. I love
Yeah.
hearing from people like you that talk about writing and how to be a better writer. You're a writer and editor. This is what you do for a living. What do you love so much about writing?
I think it's self-discovery in a lot of ways. It's kind of nobody sets out when they're writing a book or when they want to write a book and with the knowledge that they're going to do just great with it. They're going to absolutely nail it. We all start from a position where we're thinking, I hope I can do this. And then 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the line, we think, I did that. I really did do it. I could do it. And I think that's just a great process to go through, really, as a confidence builder for your wider life. But also, I think in a lot of our careers and of our lives, we don't get much of a chance to be creative very much. And if we look back to our childhood sometimes, I'm already getting deep straight away. If we go back to childhood, we were more creative then, most of us. We had ideas of being a certain thing or writing a story, and we just went straight into that. We played games and we just were creative. But as adults, we don't really get that chance. And I think there's something really enriching and actually engaging with that and just giving yourself a go, giving it a chance and seeing what comes of it. I just think that's something that more people should do, which is why I'm online talking about it all the time.
And people really resonate with it because before I hit record, I was sharing with Kieran that I feel like you're so authentic in the way that you talk about writing. And I also laugh because some of your videos and some of what's in these craft books and when writers talk about it, it's the love and the hate of writing. Like
Yeah.
it's so challenging. It's so hard to become such a great writer. And yet, if you feel called to write, it's almost like you can't not do it.
Yeah.
So why do we have that feeling of this love hate? Like I'm almost going to quit, but I can't. And you keep going. Why do we still love to write with something that's so challenging to get better at?
It's hard, isn't it? Because when it's good, it's very good. But when it's bad, it really is awful. And I think a lot of the time it's sort of for me, the way I look at it is I often, when I'm in the middle of a novel, I have days where I feel like I just don't feel like doing this at all today. I don't feel creative. It's not coming. I'm not getting into the flow state. But then I think, well, the alternative is not doing anything and not making any progress whatsoever. And that's always worse for me. So I think, well, as hard as it's ever going to be, I just have to keep going. I just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and try not to be such a perfectionist about it. And that's how you make progress, really. But I think if you've got the kind of mind that's required for writing a novel, and more people probably do than think they do, then it just becomes a pattern and a routine, and you just have to. You get to a point where you're like, well, I need to finish this chapter or I need to finish this section. And that often is enough to just carry you through a little further than the urge to get up and walk downstairs or to watch TikTok or whatever. It feels like it's more important, even though it doesn't necessarily lead straight to riches and your wildest dreams. Even if it's just something for you that you're doing that you're not telling anybody about, there's a power in that of just thinking, I'm going to do this and I'm going to just test myself. And that's hard to walk away from, I think. So on those down days, that's what always gets me through. It's like, yeah, this is tough right now, but it'd be even tougher if I'm not doing anything. So that's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah, it's like you have this when you have an idea, it's almost like you have to have such a strong enough why to like, why do I want to write this book? Like, why do I want this idea to be out in the world? And if you don't have that, it's so hard to sit down and
Yeah.
actually do the thing. Why do so many people? I feel like it's very easy for people to come up with the idea, to maybe put a draft together, and then to start writing. But I can't even imagine how many half-written books are in
Yeah.
people's notebooks, computers. Like how do you push forward? How do you push forward when you have this idea and you're excited, but then you're starting to write it and you're like, I don't know if this is anything.
that's a situation I'm trying to address with my videos and my community at the moment, because I think a lot of my videos appeal to new writers because, well, there are so many of them, first of all, and because they all hit this certain point where they think, I don't know where to go from here. And I think it's because there's kind of too much information out there, and not all of it is actually going to be relevant. This isn't kind of, I don't know anything about fixing engines, so I'm hesitant to talk about that. If you're trying to fix an engine, there's a way to do it. And there's tools and parts that you can use, and the engine will get fixed, the way it's supposed to do. With writing a novel, it doesn't work like that. You can't say, oh, how do I structure a novel? Oh, there's a novel structure that works. Because for some people, yes, it will. But for others, it'll be the absolute opposite thing that their sort of creative mind needs. So if someone starts a novel and thinks I could do with a bit of structure, and they go on and they look up how do I structure a novel, and they find 3 act or something like that, and they try and think, oh, this is terrible. I can't get this to work for me at all. They end up thinking, oh, I can't write then. I'm no good at this writing thing. When in reality, they might have much better luck of just free writing and just leaning into it and being a discovery writer. They don't know that because nobody's there to tell them that, or 5 people are telling them that, 10 people are telling them to structure. Who do you believe, and how far do you take their advice? It's something I think I'm building a community outside of YouTube at the moment, which is going to have a 30-day course designed to sort of get writers in this phase and to give them options instead of directions, to say you could do this, you could do that, try both, see which one works for you. So instead of saying you need to get this done, you need to write a first chapter before you've done anything else, you need to make progress, write 2,000 words a day, which is all really hard to do if you've got no idea what you're doing. Instead, I'm saying take 30 days, discover what kind of writer you might be, look at the options that are available and see what resonates with you and what you're naturally drawn to, and try leaning into that a little more. So it's kind of a slower paced thing. I'm not trying to promote all my own stuff, but that kind of encapsulates my approach with it. We have to learn something about ourselves in order to learn how to write a book. And then, of course, my favorite quote from sci-fi writer Gene Wolfe, or attributed to him, is you never learn to write a novel. You just learn to write the novel that you're writing. And that's a hard concept because people come into creative writing thinking, how do I do this? And not knowing, but still carrying on, is kind of counterintuitive, really. People feel like, oh, I should stop because I don't know what I'm doing. But really, that's the point where they need to keep going and learn as much as they can. But if you've got nobody there to support that idea, it's quite a big ask, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. And I think any type of writing community is important because it's so helpful to talk through with people how they are writing. I feel like emotionally we all have very similar thoughts, but the way in which people write, it is different. Even when I started reading a lot more about writers, they all kind of had their own routine, their own
Yeah.
way of doing things. I recently read Matt Bell's book, Refused to Be Done, and I loved he talks about the pantsers and the plotters, and some people really need to have a full outline, and some people, they really let the characters develop on their own,
Yeah.
and neither is right or wrong, it's just the choices that you make, and I think a lot about that even in writing. When you start writing, you read very differently, so
Yeah.
I'll find myself reading a book and thinking, "How did they select this as the character?" Or, "Why did they choose these words?" Or, like,
Yeah.
it's just funny what you see after you learn a little bit more about writing. I think it's very hard because of what you said, perfectionism. People wanna feel like, "I'm doing it the right way, I'm doing it perfectly," versus,
Yes.
"I'm
Yeah.
doing it the way that is going to get me to the end of this, and that's what's most important."
Yeah, I think there's probably so many perfect first chapters out there, but with no follow through, no rest of the book. And people quite often spend loads of time perfecting the first, chapter or first 3 chapters, but then they get to that point where they don't know how to get any further than that. And I'm always saying, it's better to finish one really bad story than to write one perfect beginning over and over and over again. You'll learn so much more by writing badly and just pushing through it. But again, not an attractive prospect for someone who wants to sit down in their spare time and try to build a new craft and get introduced to something when you've got someone saying, you just need to do it badly. I mean, how appealing is that really? Probably not, but it is the way forward, I think.
Yeah. So you do it badly, and then you finish it. How do you know when your work is good enough to share? When do you know when it's done? I feel like you could keep going back to work and improving it, improving it, improving it. When do you decide when something is finished and complete and then you can move on to a different project?
As an editor, it's terrible for business, but I'm going to say I don't know if we ever really know. I even see this in projects that I'm editing myself. I can go back and forth with writers post edit, and they'll want to keep changing things. And the things they're suggesting, I'm thinking, yeah, you could change that, and that might be better. But there's a point of diminishing returns. Eventually, you do just have to let it go. I'm not going to start quoting Frozen, but that's what you need to do. It needs to come to a point where you accept that you nailed what you wanted to nail, and the fine details, they're never all going to be perfect. It's just not going to happen. I tend to think of it as theme. Did you answer the question that you set out to answer with the book? Did you hit the emotional waypoints of the story? Did you wrap everything up the way you wanted to? If you did, and you're still thinking about sentences and this fine detail or this bit of description, at that point, move on, get it in front of readers. You asked when is it the right time to share it? As soon as you can. There's never a bad time to share something, because no matter what stage of writing you're at, you'll always benefit from getting somebody else's eyes on your story. If it's the first thing you ever write, yes, it might not be great, and that's okay. Get it in front of somebody and they can immediately tell you some things that will help you. And if you've written 10 drafts of something and you think it's literally perfect, someone will still help you improve it. So there's always benefit to that, definitely. And I think that's something most writers miss out on, because it's a solitary hobby, if you want to call it a hobby or pursuit. There's no writing club that you go to on a Wednesday night and sit down with the other writers. I mean, there are writing groups, but they're few and far between. So there's no natural moments to interact with other writers and to share things and to, help each other. So that's something else I'm trying to address as well. But yeah, sharing things as soon as you can is the way forward, even though it's painful at times, especially if you don't feel particularly confident and you're worried you're going to get knocked back. If you speak to someone that gives you constructive feedback, they're the right person. If you speak to someone who pulls you down, they're not the right person. Don't listen to a word they said and just set that aside, because that's not the kind of mind you need.
When someone comes to you, you do a lot of editing. When people are coming to you and you're working, what do you see in their work as the biggest challenges for people in their writing when you're looking through their books?
To me, it's I can kind of there's this first book kind of tone that I can notice after a while, where I can feel them playing things safe. They're maybe
Mm.
writing a little more formally than they normally, than the character or the story would support. They're sort of minding their P's and Q's, and I feel like you're remembering things that perhaps you learned at school, or you practice in work, where everything has to be official and crossed off. But if you're writing something like a first person narration story, we need to hear the character's voice. We need to hear them, the contractions in their sentences. We need to hear them using slang and cutting themselves off and meandering. So, but it's really hard to get that across to people, because they go, well, if they're meandering, it's not clear. People don't want to read that. Like, they do, because it gives you something from the character. It helps you get to know them a bit more. And I think people often get stuck between this feeling where everything's going to be criticized, so I've got to get everything right, and here's my creativity over here. I'll kind of set that aside for a moment. I'll make sure I get it right, and then I'll do the creativity bit. But it tends to be that diminishes the tone a little bit, and it makes you feel like there's something a little bit that they're not quite giving, something that they could add to it, or they could just go for it with both barrels. And that's hard to do as a new writer, but that's something I definitely encourage. And I have a kind of editing product, I suppose, where I look at the first 5,000 words of a novel and give feedback on that. And that's one of the things I identify a lot. I'm like, just lean in, go for it, because the worst you can do is hold back all the time and then realize at the end that you haven't really given it, what you wanted, and then you've got to go through all the whole thing again. It's much better to go through and edit a characterful, intense book where you've really hit everything that you want to hit. Now you've just got to tidy it up a bit. That's an easier task generally. So not quite leaning in and worrying too much about stuff like spelling and grammar. That all is going to come in the second draft anyway. You're always going to make mistakes, so there's no point minding every apostrophe when it's going to get changed. So don't spend too much time on that. those are a couple of big ones. No doubt we'll come off the call and I'll go, oh, that's not the biggest thing. I see this all the time. But those are the things that come to mind anyway.
Well, it's interesting because you said, I know that you help people find their authentic voice as a writer and in their stories. So that always like whenever when people talk about like finding their voice, I think about comedians, how comedians talk about finding their point of view
Right.
and how it has to be different, right? It makes them unique and different and why we love them. Same thing as writers, especially some of these authors that they have 20, 30, 50 books and they just are
Yeah.
consistently writing. And so you get to know the feel and the tone of the person. So when let's say you're like not a beginner, but you're not necessarily an advanced writer, you're kind of in the middle, you've written some books. Like how long does it really take to find your authentic voice and feel like you're really putting yourself in the book, but also through the characters you're creating?
That's a really good question. I suppose it's different for everyone. For me, I think it took me about at least 4 or 5 novels, really. But I really found my voice through short fiction as opposed to novel writing. So that was slightly different. What you write has a lot to do with it as well. It's hard to bring out your authentic voice if you're writing the wrong story, even if you think that you know exactly what you need to write. For example, I set out first trying to write stories that were going to be kind of plotty thriller type stories, and I found that really difficult. I couldn't find my voice there at all, and it's because those aren't the stories that I was naturally, best equipped to write. When I started writing short fiction and leaned more literary, that was much easier for me to find my voice on. But the answer is to experiment and to not limit yourself to thinking I only do this or I only want to do this. There's a wide world of stories and approaches out there, and you should lean into that and just try things and figure out what that there might be discoveries out there. Voice essentially it comes from you. It's everything that you can't really do anything specific to activate your voice or to identify here's my voice, here's the 4 bullet points that make up my voice. It's very difficult to do that. It's kind of, for me at least anyway, it's an inherent quality within you about how you see the world and how you try to reflect that onto the page. Some of it just takes time, but I think, again, it's self-discovery and it's reflection, I think. You have to be comfortable with what you're putting into the story. And instead of standing back and trying to write a story so nobody sees you, nobody looks at you, and, they can just read the story and not think about me at all, that's going to limit your voice as well. I think you have to lean in and own what you're saying and lean into your descriptions and your flowery language or whatever else. But it's about committing, I think, and being willing to write 4 novels or 3 novels and not really feel like you've quite found it yet. Sometimes it does take that long. And with a bit of proper guidance, I think I'd probably have been quicker to find my own voice when wasn't trying to follow systems that didn't fit for me. Then that might have been a lot easier. But knowing that you've got options and you don't have to follow Stephen King's 10 pages a day or anything like that. No disrespect to Mr. King, of course, but it might not fit for you. So I think learning that you have a say in this, you don't have to stick to what you think you ought to do. You can do things your way. And when you start to do things your way and feel comfortable with that, that's, I think, when the voice comes out the strongest. That's been my experience anyway.
Is there a which piece of your work do you feel like you are most proud of, even if it's not your best writing?
It's always my latest book with me because I tend to think, oh, this is the one. The rest of them don't matter now. This is the one. But that's not published or out or anything yet. So probably I wrote a novella in Flash a few years ago, which is essentially Flash fiction is just short fiction. It's between 250 and 1,000 words. And a novella in Flash is just a collection of those that I wrote it for a competition because it sounded like a good idea. And you needed to have sort of 10, 15,000 words, and each of the stories needed to be connected in some way. How you connected them was up to you. I chose to write, to feature the same car in every story throughout its lifetime, and it turned into this twisted crime thing or whatever, but I really leaned into it and thought, I'm going to be creative here, and that's what it led me to. And I think that was the moment I thought, this is actually the kind of thing I should be writing. There's a little plot to it. Mostly it's literary. It's about moments in time or I always call them snapshots on my YouTube channel, where it's just that you just nail that feeling of a moment of a bit of dust passing, through a beam of light, that kind of thing. I think so. That's called Gold Fury, that novella in Flash, in case I didn't mention that. I think that was about 2020. And then after that was when I started writing, I started making YouTube videos as well. So it all kind of came together at once for me. But if I had to nail it down to one project, it would be that one. But if not, I'd say the one I'm currently writing or revising.
Well, first you submitted it as an entry. Did What was
Yeah,
it for? And
it was.
should I ask if you won?
I didn't win. It was for the Bath Novella in Flash prize, and I did get shortlisted, but I didn't win. But yes,
That's cool.
yeah, I think that, of course, I always talk about outside validation and don't rely on outside validation. But of course, it feels good when you get something from the
Yeah.
outside world saying, yeah, this is good. So that spurred me on. And there was an editor for that competition. His name's Michael Loveday. He offers writing services as well, and everybody should look him up. But he was the first person to kind of go through the entry I'd written and give me some commentary on it as part of the being shortlisted. That was something I got. And he'd nailed down, he'd kind of put, oh, I like your cinematic style or this or that. And I'd never thought about it as cinematic before. And that again helped me reinforce my voice. I thought, oh, okay, if I'm good at that, I'll do a little bit more of that. And that helped. So again, it's getting feedback from outside, help you see things that you don't see yourself. And all of that can be good things as well as you missed a comma there. Like, yeah, of course that's valuable, but it doesn't make you feel that great. But if someone goes, do you know that you write this, you do this really well? That's great for progress and confidence. So though it's the scariest thing ever, getting your work out there definitely comes back to you in many ways, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I actually I do the Writer's Digest Poem a Day Challenge
Okay.
every year. They have one in April because it's National Poetry Month, and then they do one in November. And so in November, you can submit a chapbook, like a poetry
Yeah.
chapbook. And so I thought, why not? I only started writing poetry like in 2020. So it's been about, oh gosh, I guess it has been longer than I think. I
Yeah. I
think
was going to say
that
that's
was
that's a
quite a
few
while
years.
ago. But I kind of just like dabble in it here and there, and then, but because I've been doing the challenge for a few years, I thought, oh, I can do a chapbook. And so I did, and I submitted it. I did not win or get shortlisted. However, I was still really happy that I put it out there because why not?
Exactly. That's the way people should look at this stuff. I think there's a big thing that happens that we can't really name or understand, where you take something that has lived just inside your head or inside your hard drive or whatever, and you send it out to in front of the eyes of somebody else. It solidifies it, and I don't know what it is or how to define it exactly, but it's significant and it's something that more writers should do. So it's great that you did that. I think more people should do that kind of thing. And like you said, I just thought, why not? Exactly. Lean into it, have some fun with it, and you never know what's going to come back from it, because things can work out and you then be surprised.
Yeah, and this is what I love about editing. I mean, this is the work that you get to do. The first time I hired, actually, I'm working on something now, and I hired an editor, and I was a little bit nervous about it, and it was the feedback that I got back. No joke, I actually, like, had tears in my eyes because it's so good to just get feedback.
Yeah.
All of it, the good, the bad, "This is what you do well, this is where you can improve." Like, it just feels good that, like, someone else looks at your work and it wasn't just, "This is horrendous, throw it away." It's like, no, there are definitely things that can improve, but there are things that you actually do well, and so I love being able to work with people like you because you get to see someone's work in a very different way, and I think a lot of people hold on to their work too long. They don't
Yeah.
wanna share it, they don't wanna put it out, even having an editor, different types of editors, like a developmental editor, just to, is this even a story? To have somebody that does this professionally look at your work and then give you feedback is, yes, it's challenging because it can be upsetting to hear all the negatives, but it
Yeah.
also should motivate you and push you because it sounds, and we haven't worked together yet, but it sounds like you're very encouraging in your work because you're not trying to strip away the
Yeah.
story. You're trying to hold on to the story as much as they intended it to sound, but also helping them make it sound better than maybe they are making it at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's something, I'm not going to say there's something wrong with writing or the writing community, but there's something there because every time, well, fairly often when I do edit for somebody for the first time, they come back to me after the feedback and say, I'm so glad I reached out and did this. You didn't tear me down at all. I was so terrified about the feedback and stuff. And I thought that even as friendly as I must seem on YouTube, hopefully, people still worry that I'm going to send them back like, no, this is terrible. Don't bother ever writing again. Which I think it is generally some people's experience that they
Yeah.
will seek out feedback from other people and they do get that kind of response, which absolutely bewilders me. And if I could take those people that are giving that advice and just remove them from the pool of writing advice, I would do it in a heartbeat because they are not the right people to give any feedback, especially in an early part of a writer's uh, you know, career, I suppose. Because if someone feels so vulnerable about trying something for the first time and they run into that brick wall, how many people must have quit altogether and never tried it again because of one bad reaction, which is totally understandable. I mean, I want to be the opposite of that. And I'm not bigging people up when they've got a lot of work to do. I give strengths and I give areas to develop on every piece of work that I look at because there are always strengths. I've never edited a piece of writing that didn't have strengths. And I've edited like 3 million words or something over the past few years. So I think being supportive like that, it's not, people panic sometimes. They're like, is that all you're going to say? Is that all that's wrong with it? I'm like, yes. I mean, I have given you areas to develop on every single chapter. But yeah, that's it. People are expecting to be torn down all the time. And I would really like to, you know, have that not be such a common occurrence and a common fear. Because if people can write a little more freely and approach feedback with a little more confidence, that will benefit them too. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it with
Yeah,
with your channel. It's true. I mean, really, I love your videos. They're great. Let's kind of talk about that because
sure.
so you're an editor, you're a writer, you do all these things, and then you started this YouTube channel that is looks very successful from my end. A lot of engagement. You share really great videos. How did you decide to become a YouTube creator, and what's that experience been like for you?
It's it was a hard thing to do, but it was one that was kind of essential for me, really, because I hit a point, and I think a lot of writers do this, where they feel isolated. I didn't know how to progress. I'd written a book and had kind of a revise and resubmit deal with an agent. And then the agent said, ultimately, oh, actually, never mind, forget it. We're not going to work together, which was crushing. And I was in a sort of full-time job that I didn't really want to be in. And I thought I need to just talk to other writers and figure out how to get better at this or figure out how to progress. I need to do something different and branch out in a new direction. And that was early 2020, I think, or 2019. And I thought, I'm going to try making videos and see what happens. And I uploaded the first few terrible cringe ones, as everybody does. It's a rite of passage. They're gone now, so don't bother looking for them. But I thought I can maybe do this. And my approach from day one was I'm just going to tell the truth about how I really feel about things and what my experience has been. Because I see so many people, get into trouble by saying things they don't really believe or, selling things they don't necessarily believe in. I thought, I'm just going to be honest about how hard this is because nobody really talks about that. Well, other people do, I'm sure, but I wasn't seeing it. And I thought, if I can talk about how hard this is for me, maybe other people will, I don't know, find something in that. So that's what I started to do. And it also had the benefit of bringing a bit of routine and order to my writing, really, because I was thinking if I'm going to make YouTube videos, I'm going to do that properly. So hopefully they'll grow, and so I've got to keep on schedule for that. So I'll have to keep writing so that I have things to talk about and keep reading. So it all just kind of helped me get some momentum and keep going, really. And then obviously started to dig deeper into topics, which helped me learn. And then other people in the comments, of course, always give me perspectives that I think, yeah, I never would have thought about that, but you're absolutely right. So it became I don't know, a big part of what I do. And it's slowly grown over time. And I'm really thankful for that. And it's just kind of that was what led me into editing as well. Because I thought, well, maybe I'd edited for people, informally before, but I thought maybe I can do this properly and people might actually be interested in that. And it's worked out better than I could have thought. Last year, I was giving you my life story now. Last year, I was made redundant from my job, my full-time job, and I thought, well, I'm going to lean into editing and I'm going to finally make the jump that I probably would never have been brave enough to do otherwise. And it's here we go, here we are now. So it's making the decision to branch out. YouTube isn't for everyone. I mean, I'm an introvert. I find it really, really difficult to sit in front of a camera and talk, and it's taken me a lot of, you know, analysis and improvement to get halfway decent at it. But it's not for everybody. I totally get that. But the spirit of it, getting out of your own mind, talking to other writers, sharing things, that's what made the difference for me. And that's what I think more writers should do. And I want to make it easier for more writers if I possibly can. So yeah, it's been a journey, as they always say.
Yeah, it's so inspiring though, because I think so many people were in are in what your situation was, right? They're at a job they don't
Yeah.
love, they don't feel like, and they also don't really feel like they can venture into something while they're working. I really believe that you can tap into your creativity, whether it's writing, art, gardening, whatever it is that whatever creative pursuit really calls you. You don't have to go full in and leave your job yet,
Yeah.
right? You can still do that and do some things on the side and just kind of see how it plays out if that makes you feel better. You don't have to blow up your life in order to start the
No,
YouTube channel or the podcast or whatever it is that you really want to start creating and see where it might go.
absolutely. It probably took me too long, really, because I was at it for kind of 5 years working at my job and then making YouTube videos and doing a little bit of editing. And I slowly brought it up. I'm a really cautious, naturally cautious and sensible person. So whether I would ever have made the jump to go full time, I don't know. But the way it worked out, it just happenstance just led me to this position. But the thing was starting in the first place and starting really small. But again, I had that same feeling of the alternative is doing nothing, quitting writing, just doing this job, which I already don't like. Well, there's no path forward there. So the only alternative was to keep going, keep making videos, accept, and appreciate every single view and every single subscriber that came in as the numbers slowly ticked up. And it might take a while, it might take a long time, but one day you'll be so glad that you did it, because that's how I feel now with the community I've managed to pull together. And my YouTube channel is not huge by anyone's standards. I don't get huge views, but like you said before, it's the engagement in it, which I always feel so appreciative for. Every time I post a video, there's people in the comments almost immediately to talk about what I've said and whether they agree or they disagree or they've got something else to add. And they always do. And it's great to see. So I'm very glad I started that. So it might not be a YouTube channel for everyone, but there should be some avenue out there, whether it's like a Substack or something else. Make your writing live somewhere else other than just in your brain or on your hard drive. And eventually I think it'll come back to you and maybe take you places that you didn't think you'd necessarily get, which is what's happened to me.
Yeah, and it might not be a YouTube channel for everyone, but it's like perfect for the person that you're trying to reach. And that's why I think it's so meaningful and powerful. I feel like in today's world where it feels like we have access to everyone on the internet, so everyone should want to watch this. No, that doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. It's the engagement. And if you're able to find when you're posting a video, who's like, Kieren, you're speaking directly to me, and that is what you are creating, which is why it's resonating with the right people.
Yeah, it takes a long time to figure that out as well. Even for me, I didn't think when I started making videos, I want to find those people that are in exactly this situation where they want to they want to make progress. They've got this dream of being a writer, but they don't know where to go, and maybe they're overwhelmed. I didn't think about all of that stuff. I just thought I'm going to make videos for writers and see if they like them, and that was as niche down as I got. And then the YouTube advice is to niche down, and I was like, well, I've done that, making videos about writing. But that's not a niche. And making videos about fiction writing, novel writing, short story writing, none of those are niche down enough. Like you said, you have to nail that exact audience that you're speaking to and that you feel best equipped to speak to, and then hope they find you. And after a while, they do, and then you really start to notice that engagement, which is great to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Kieren, what is a common myth around becoming a great writer?
This is a hard one because it's quite nuanced, but the biggest thing I've been thinking about this lately is word count goals. And I think people have, like I mentioned Stephen King before, he's got his 10 pages a day or his 2000 pages, 2000 words a day. And I think while that can be a healthy part of a writing routine and it's good to have goals, just writing words is not everything. I think output isn't the same as progress necessarily. There are other types of progress you can make. So if you've got a writing routine and you've written 2000 words a day for 3 days and then on the fourth day you just can't do it, sitting and thinking about your story or building a character profile or just leaning into some other aspect of writing for that hour or 2 hours, that should still count for me. I think you're still engaging with writing, so there's no reason why that shouldn't be part of your routine. Just confusing making progress. Progress is only word count. I think that is the biggest myth I think I'd like to challenge, because there's so much more that goes into it that then gets labeled as procrastination or, wasting time, but it's not. It all is part of the system or the process that ends up with a full novel. Because if you don't have any thinking time, you're just going to type rather than writing. And it's definitely happened to me when I've put word count goals in front of myself. And I've written books very efficiently that way and then felt absolutely nothing about them when I finished. So I would say word count goals are great for motivation, absolutely, but don't stick to them like there's no option other than that, because everything is progress as long as you're engaging with what you want to write.
I love that, especially as someone who I feel like, and I was just talking to a friend of mine about this the other day about progress. I feel like, to me, it was, unless you have written something on the page, posted something, did something, finished something, it's a waste.
Yeah,
But it's not a waste. I love that idea of, even when I'm taking a walk, if I'm just thinking about different ideas or thinking about something, if I'm constantly like feeding my brain with podcasts and this and that, or I have to be writing, that sentence or that line or that one piece that I might think, oh, that could be a poem or that could be something in a story, I would
yeah,
never have gotten there had I not just let my mind wander. And
exactly.
I don't really feel like I don't put enough emphasis on those moments as I really probably should. I probably would write better if I allowed myself to do more of that, which I have been trying to do more over the years,
Yeah,
because I just think we live in this world of, it's still just this go, 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 being productive. You have to
yeah,
do all the time. And so it can be really challenging. Matthew Kelly, he wrote this book called Slowing Down to the Speed of Joy. It's right here, so I'll pick it out. Such a great book. And it's just this reminder of, it's okay to slow down. Busy is not your friend. That's such a great myth, because I do feel like it's this constant, when am I going to be finished with the book? When is it going to be done? When am I going to be
yes.
done with this chapter?
Yes, that hit me when I was still working full time and I was trying to write books, thinking the next one, I'm going to get some progress with the next one, I'll get it published. And I was coming home from work, trying to do my 2000 words or whatever. And then, okay, that's done. And I didn't stop to think about whether they were actually good or what I wanted or were leading me where I wanted to go. It was all about get it done, move quickly, get to the next thing. And writing is not really about a destination. It's a process that keeps going forever, really. So looking at it as all my dreams will come true when I just get to 100,000 words, you're always setting yourself up for disappointment there. And it's very natural. It's really hard to sit all day in a job you don't like with this dream and then go home, not write any words towards that and think, yeah, I did well. Like, it's really hard to do that. But it is essential that you give yourself that time, because otherwise, as I said before, you're just going to be typing and not writing necessarily. And they're not quite the same thing, at least for me and my experience, that I've definitely felt before. And I don't enforce any kind of word count limits on myself when I'm writing now. I just go until I don't feel as creative, or until I finished the bit that I was on, and I take a break, and that's okay. And a book takes me as long as it takes me. I mean, I have the luxury of that because, I don't earn any income at all from my own fiction. It's just kind of the backbone of everything else I do. I keep writing to keep my skills sharp, and because I always wanted to write anyway. It was like like I said, the backbone of everything I do. But I'm not like writing to a deadline, so I can just enjoy the time I spend doing it. Which people often bring up the question, don't you don't you feel weird now doing your hobby as a career? It's like, I don't really, because my own writing was my hobby and it kind of still is, really. I still look at it in the same way. There's no pressure in the same of deadlines or expectations because I'm just creating for me. And the energy and the knowledge I get from that is what I then take up to my professional life, if you like. So I've kind of gone on a total tangent there. But yeah, absolutely. It's not just about word counts and hitting targets and never stopping. That might feel like you're making quick progress, but then when you get to the end, it's pretty much false progress because there's still so much work there left that you never did on your way through. So I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. I love when writers talk about how when they're writing, you just get into this you get into this zone
Mm,
where it's just it's flow, that
yeah.
sense of flow where you feel like the progress is being made, you're developing the characters and you really love them. You feel really I'd rather be proud of the work that I got done, even if it wasn't a word count thing, but I felt really good about the work
Yes.
versus, "Oh, I wrote 2,000 words, but I don't know if I'll be able to use any of them, but at least I did the 2,000 words." No, I'd
Yeah.
rather be like, "Oh, I love this." I've written things that I'm like, even if nobody loves it at all, I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's stuff we talked about building voice before, but there's stuff like that that's really personal achievements that you write a story, you think, I want to write this story, and you write it, and it turns out pretty much exactly what you were thinking you were going to write, which rarely happens. But when it does, you think, oh, I nailed that. I really did that. And nobody might ever read it. Yeah. If it's 250 words or 1,000, you're thinking, great, I did it. And I've never felt that from going, oh, I wrote 2,000 words. So what? It's like, again, I'm being careful not to say, don't write to word counts because they do get writers through stories, absolutely. But there is more to it. It's not just output. It's how you feel about it, which is what you said. I'm a write by feel writer. I don't use, an awful lot of structures and formulas and that kind of thing. I just kind of go for it. And that's how I find my way through my stories is by feel. So it definitely stands out to me that you can just settle in and you hit that flow state. It's really satisfying. And then most of the time you don't even realize. And then half an hour later, you come out of you finish the scene and think, yeah, that was it. I was in there. I really nailed that. And there's no better feeling as you're writing through a project than that, I don't think. It definitely beats just, okay, 7 more words. There you go. 2,000 done. Shut the computer down. It's not really comparable, at least for me.
Yeah. No. No, it's like writing I feel like if people that write, like, you have a love of writing, otherwise people aren't gonna do it. It's
Yeah. Yeah. You have to enjoy the process. I kind of oddly admire the people that the self-published kind of Amazon people where they're like, okay, this is going to be really reductive, and I don't mean it to be offensive. The people are like, okay, autumn werewolf romance is number 1 on the listings right now. I need to get one of these written, and they write it in 2 weeks or something, and then they publish it and get it out there. I'm like, that's awesome for a creative business, but it doesn't feel like writing in the same way. Maybe I'm being pretentious, but that feels like a different thing to what I do and something I could never do, no matter how good or bad I think I am at writing. That would be beyond me. It's just a separate endeavor entirely. So yes, slowing down is the way to go. Enjoy the task and enjoy the reason you started this was because you had curiosity. So you have to follow that throughout your whole story, and it'll take you somewhere, usually somewhere maybe unexpected or maybe expected, but either way, the result is going to be something that is satisfying. And even if the story ends up not being great, not what you wanted, I bet you learned quite a bit in the process of it that you can then take and apply to your next story. And it's process and it's progress that never ends. You just keep getting better incrementally, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you're always moving forward. So no writing is ever a waste. Even those 2,000 words that you just bashed out for 2,000 words, they're not a waste because you still will have learned something. But I think you learn more from slowing down and writing a bit more by feel and just immersing yourself in it. That's my advice anyway.
I love it. Yes, that's awesome. All right. So, Kieran, I always ask all of my guests the last question, which is what is one activity that we can do in 10 minutes or less to live a more creative life?
I thought about this and then I got very afraid about 5 minutes ago because we pretty much talked about it. My answer is nothing. Actively nothing. Do nothing. There's a reason why those ideas come to you on your walks, or why when you're, shower thoughts and you suddenly remember something. It's because our brains are not focused on some productive task or some kind of external stimuli. That's the main thing, I think, for that's facing a lot of us. We just want to pick up our phones all the time. But taking a step back, closing your eyes, shutting the doors, just get everything, every distraction out and just sit with your brain, which can be very uncomfortable sometimes. But I think there's something in that, and I'm not a brain scientist by any means, but I think there's something in that that just allows our creativity to come through a little bit more. It's just giving space for our brain to tackle problems that we might not even realize we have in the story yet. But if you just think about your story for a while, sit in silence, take 10 minutes to do nothing, even if you don't get, an output from that, if you don't have a sudden realization, making it part of your writing routine, I think is more valuable than the 100 words you would have written in that 10 minutes. And it just gives you a chance to catch up and helps cut through the TikTok addiction or whatever else, because we're all suffering with it and we don't need it. And I think just being alone with our thoughts and letting our creativity run free for a little bit, I think it definitely is a quiet thing, a thing that has a lot of value, I think. So that would be my suggestion anyway.
Agreed. I love it. Nothing. Nothing for 10 minutes. And I
Yeah.
know someone's listening going, that sounds hard,
Yeah.
which,
Absolutely. Especially if you say with no outcome in mind, with no
yeah.
pass or fail on this, whether you think of something or you don't, you've still completed the time and it was still worth doing. And that's a hard sell when there's so many other things on a to-do list that we need to get around to, but it's definitely worth doing, I think.
Yes. 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 Oh my gosh, Kieren, this was so great. Thank you so much
Was
for
so much
coming
fun.
on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You work with beginner writers, you work with all types of writers on editing and you're building a community. So where's the best place for people to find you?
Probably, I guess, my website, kierenwestwood.com. And then after that, I'd say probably YouTube is the most accessible way to kind of figure out what I'm about and have a look at some of my videos. But beyond that, yeah, everything flows through my website. I'm building something else, but it's not quite ready yet. In a few months, it will be. It'll be up on Mighty Networks, and it'll be a place to pull writers together and help them share with each other and learn. And there's going to be courses there that are designed to show writers what they can choose from, not to tell them how to do one thing or another thing, or to inflict my version of writing onto them. So, yeah, I'd start with my website and go from there. So.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll put the website and your YouTube channel in the notes so people can find you. Definitely, if you are in your writing process, then definitely check out Kieren's YouTube channel. You will get sucked into all the different videos. They're very well done, and the advice is really great. And again, you just make it feel easily accessible for people to become better at writing.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate all the work that you're putting out into the world.
Thanks so much. Likewise.
All right. Thank you so much, Kieren. And
Thanks for
thank
having
you
me.
all so much for listening. And until next time, go create something.